So I've got a fun one for you today, because today we're comparing two generations of 4Runner, two iconic generations of 4Runner, the brand new 5th generation in the TRD Pro, and the legendary 3rd gen. We're gonna find out which is better and which is the best bang for the buck. Alright Grant, thank you for showing us through your Toyota. So walk me through the year, the make, the model, and why you went with the 4Runner.
So this is a 2001 Toyota 4Runner in the limited trim. I specifically chose the 4Runner because I actually came from a pickup, and then, you know, moving up to Colorado, I needed something a little bit smaller, and so I was kind of going back and forth between the Grand Cherokee and the 4Runner, and really the 4Runner just kind of fit my needs best, as I needed something that could also be my daily, and so this has been dead reliable. It has 210,000 miles on it. Gas mileage isn't the best, but you know, it's never left me stranded, never broken down, never had any major issues. So.
Nice. So if I remember right, we did a full video over at TFL Classics which kind of go through why you bought the 4Runner, but you said you had to do like the timing belt on this engine, right? And a couple of those maintenance things?
Yes, so roughly every 100,000 miles on these Toyota motors, they run a timing belt, not a timing chain, and so it's recommended that you change that. And when you do, it's kind of like, oh, you're already in there, you might as well do the water pump and the radiator and all that. So right at 200,000, I had the timing belt done, I had the water pump done, I had the radiator done. So that's as far as kind of mechanical. Rest of it has been suspension and brakes and just kind of updating all of those bushings and bearings and whatnot.
Nice. So that of course is something to keep in mind with the 3rd gen, as they are no longer new vehicles and they do need a little bit of love every now and then, but still super dead solid. Now this has, I think you said, the Toytech lift on it, right?
Yes, this is the Toytech Aluma Series Boss lift. With it's a 3-inch lift with full-on coilovers and the SPC upper control arms.
Nice. So all in all, do you think you're under 20K on this build? What do you think you're at total cost-wise?
Absolutely. I'd say probably somewhere between total, including the price of the car, about 12 to 14.
Oh geez. Okay, so way under the cost of the new one. Now the new 4Runner is a 5th generation, and this one comes in at about $52,000, and this is of course a Pro, which means that you have to deal with the dealer markups, which tend to happen. So cost-wise, certainly the 3rd gen Toyota is far more affordable than anything new, but let's see what that means out on the trail. My dude, let's go hit some cool off-road terrain out here in Colorado. So when you bought that 3rd gen, did you look at a 4th gen or an older one? What drew you to the 3rd generation of 4Runner specifically?
So I liked the 4th gen. It was just a little bit out of my price range at the time, and I had heard kind of some rough things about the 2nd gen's motors that are known for blowing head gaskets like crazy, and so this kind of just seemed like the perfect middle ground of that. I was originally wanting a V8 4th gen, just really couldn't pay the price for one.
Yeah, they are very expensive even on the used market. And what's the engine in that 3rd gen?
Yes, it's a 3.4 liter V6, also known for being in the Tacomas of the time too.
Yeah, this new 4Runner has a 4-liter V6, which they used, I think, in the 4th gen 4Runners as well, and it makes, you know, 270, 280 horsepower. And it does have a 5-speed automatic still, even in 2021, but it certainly has got more oomph. So in terms of off-road gear, this new TRD Pro is fully loaded. So it's got A-Track, which is the off-road traction control. It's got the rear locker, it's got crawl control. You can dial in for different terrains. What was the off-road gear all the way back in the early 2000s?
So I do have a traditional transfer case, except it is electronically actuated. I'm sure as the camera might have saw, I pushed the button on my little shifter here to put it into 4-wheel drive auto with the center diff unlocked, and then I have a separate button on my dash to lock the center diff, and that's it. There is no rear locker. This kind of has the precursor to A-Track, so it's a little bit of kind of brake controlling there, but as far as a mechanical or electrical locker for the rear, I do not have that.
If I recall, I think that some of the 3rd gens had the option for the rear locker, right? Wasn't that like an an option at one point?
Yes, for the third gens from 97 to 2000, you could get the optional rear locker. For 2001 and 2002, they changed to this A-track kind of system that included the center locker, and you weren't able to get a rear locker with that.
Well, right now we're just going through some kind of tight Colorado trail here, but in the next maybe 5 minutes we'll hit the hill, and then we will see how they do when the going gets real tough.
Sounds good to me.
Alright, so we made it to our testing location. This is called Cliffhanger 1.0. There's two sides. The left side is truth. It's very steep, but not too articulated and not too loose. And then the right side is dare. It's very articulated and loose, and a great test of articulation and traction aids and all of it. So which one, dude, do you want to try?
I gotta do dare. I mean, I feel like, what are we doing if we're not taking this thing up here to do dare?
Alright, well, we will give it a whirl, and I will help spot you up, and we will see how the third gen does.
Let's do it.
Nice, alright, and then just take it super slow, and we will basically just take you right up the middle here. So we'll give you driver if you need to turn the wheel to the left, and passenger if you need to go to the right.
10-4. Guess we're doing dare. She crawls.
Stay a little bit to your left. We're going to go right through these humps, and then this is where we're going to see how the articulation is.
Oh, like butter. What a result, guys. This hill is really a pretty gnarly thing, especially on some newer stock vehicles, but a small lift on a third gen 4Runner, even without the rear locker, you could see how well that thing articulates. It just walked through those camel humps like they weren't even there. That was a super impressive result. Great work, Grant. That was awesome. Go ahead and turn it around and then come on down the right side, and we will see how the new one compares. Off-road and the 5th generation 4Runner. Now the keen observers among you may notice the co-pilot behind me. That is Puppy Blaze. He is my Bernese mountain dog, and he's an avid off-road fan at this point. Now Blaze, what are we gonna do about our 4-wheel drive selection? Because I've got so many options in this new 4Runner. Unlike the 3rd gen, Grant basically went into low range and that's all he could do. I've got just so many options. So first of all, let me go to neutral. I've got a good old-fashioned lever to select low range. But then from there, oh my god, so many options. I can use A-Track, which is basically off-road traction control to mimic a locker. I can use a real locker. I can also dial in different terrains on what they call multi-terrain select. Let's do that. I want to see how that works. People love multi-terrain select and crawl control on the Toyotas. So let's see how it goes. So I'm going to use crawl control as well. This is off-road cruise control. And I'm going to leave my rear locker unlocked. Let's see how good these new traction aids are. So that is the top speed of crawl control. I'm going to back it down one speed. And that noise that kind of sounds like sneakers in the dryer, that is the crawl control system working to modulate power where it needs to go. Now I'm going to take the hardest of the hard lines here, see how it does, see if crawl control can figure out where to send the power even with us unlocked in the rear. Alright, so you can see there, dips deep into the hole. Same thing right there, foot off the throttle, and the Toyota walked it. Toyota did very, very well. Honestly, I could have made that hill even a little easier by just driving with my foot and using the locker. But it is cool that Toyota does have these off-road assists, and that works up and downhill. Honestly, that 3rd gen just crushed it out here. I thought that maybe this hill would be a challenge, because it is a challenge for so many vehicles. But with the slight lift and the BFG tires, they'll just go anywhere. They're such good vehicles for such a small amount of money. Now the new 4Runner, very impressive, far more practical, much more powerful. It'll do, you know, well over the speed limit of I-70 if you ask it to. But from a value per dollar standpoint, the 3rd gen is the way to do it if you just want a vehicle to take you out into the woods for a fun weekend. All right, let's go ahead and bring her on down the hill. All right, it does make quite the noise, crawl control. but it does do a good job of maintaining the speed. I'm going less than 1 mile an hour right now, coming down the hill, and it's just working. Not much to say. You can even slow it down just one click by turning the knob, and it's working the brakes, working the powertrain to keep me at a steady speed. Now, if you want crawl control, you can get it on a TRD off-road too. You don't have to spend $52,000 for the Pro, and that's typically the one I recommend people get. But oh yeah, Blaze loves it. He is having a grand old time sticking his head out that window. Blaze just likes to be part of the action. Well, so both of these Toyotas walked up that hill like it was nothing. They both performed really well. What do you think of the 4Runner after seeing it in action?
I mean, this thing's great. I feel like you're not able to even stop this thing. I was actually a little worried about, you know, width overall coming through these trees. I know Jeep's a little bit more narrow, but then I saw that, I was like, oh boy, you know what? I'm fine with here. But other than that, I mean, it's been great. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
So the new one with like the crawl control and the multi-terrain select, it's very impressive, and I think if you're really pushing it, that rear locker would come in handy over the 3rd gen. But for 99.999% of things that people are doing, the 3rd gen Toyota will do it for a third or a quarter of the price. It looks great, it holds a lot, very reliable, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Would you agree? How many miles are on this?
210,000.
Right.
And going up that hill, I was just in low range with the center diff locked, and that's it.
Yeah, and they just go everywhere. So I think for value per money, if you're looking for an off-roader, 3rd gen 4Runner is the way to go. If you're looking for a daily driver with a lot of power and creature comforts and all the goodies to keep you entertained with Apple CarPlay, check out the new 5th gen, because it still is one heck of a vehicle, even though it's going on a decade old. Well guys, thank you so much for watching. Check out TFL Car, TFL Truck, and TFLOffRoad.com for the latest and greatest in Cliffhanger 1.0 reviews.